Okay, so today we're going to be talking about trigonometry, and a core concept that everyone needs to know within trigonometry is the unit circle. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I memorized the unit circle quickly and efficiently, and what tricks I used. Okay, so the first thing I did was I went ahead and sketched out the unit circle as it is taught in most textbooks and by most pre-calculus courses. So first thing I did was, at the very top, I put my pi over 2, which of course we're going to put 90 degrees in a moment. And then at the bottom, I put my 3 pi over 2. So from these two numbers on the unit circle, that's how I will find the other radians around the unit circle. Also, I designated the x and y, positive and negative traits in each quadrant, because that's also going to help us quickly memorize the actual coordinate points on the unit circle. Okay, so first we'll talk about finding the coordinate points on the unit circle. And actually, hold on, Okay, so what I just did, I made sure I indicated that this is the unit circle from our 4 quadrantal points. So we know that we are dealing with the unit circle according to those coordinate points at the 4 ends. So as far as the coordinate points on the actual unit circle go, as you can see, in the first quadrant, it's really just 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, all the way down, and you're emanating from that pi over 2. That's where you start counting from when it comes to both of these top 2 quadrants. Quadrant 1 and 2, you always count from that pi over 2. You always count from there. So as you can see, in this first quadrant, we have an x-coordinate of 1, another x-coordinate of 2, and another x-coordinate of 3. And then it just reverses for the y-coordinate. And of course, we always make sure we mind what is positive and what's negative in each quadrant at the top, as I've indicated. Okay, and you will do that for both sides. So once again, emanating from the very top of the circle, you start with 1, 2, 3 for the x values, and you actually start with 3, 2, 1 for the y values. And it's actually the same thing down here when you go to the bottom of the unit circle. So everything's emanating from that 3 pi over 2. So that's what you're going to use to start out from. And that's actually what we're going to use to emanate with the radians as well, but still focusing on the coordinate points here. So now my next move is I want to divide everything by 2, all these coordinates, the x and y coordinates, by 2, and then I'm going to take the square root of the numerator of all of those fractional values at the top, and you're actually going to do the same thing at the bottom as well. So you can see that pattern there, and how you can quickly write that up really quick, as long as you know that pattern. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Divide everything by 2, and then the final step to find all the coordinates, I'm going to do the square root of each numerator. And we're going to leave 1 alone because the square root of 1 is itself. Okay, so using that trick I just showed you, I found all the correct coordinate points for the unit circle, just using that same trick. And like I said, at the bottom, just to reiterate, you emanate that x value being 1, x value being 2, and x value being 3. That all emanates from that 3 pi over 2. I like to call that 3 pi over 2 and that pi over 2, those are my anchors, and I go out from there. They're going to tell me everything I need to know. So now we're going to go to the actual radians part, how to memorize the radians. So we know in the first quadrant, that numerator, and the numerator is essentially, of course, what you're going to be moving around and working with when you try and find the radians, because everything emanates out from that pi over 2 and that 3 pi over 2, and it always emanates out as 3, 4, 6. 3, 4, 6. And at the bottom, same thing, 3, 4, 6, 3, 4, 6. Your numerators are not, they vary very little throughout the unit circle. So what we're going to do is, in our second quadrant, of course, our first quadrant, we're just going to keep the numerator as pi, so just pi over 3, pi over 4, pi over 6. In our second quadrant, our next deal is we're actually going to, the trick here is you know your denominator, of course. So your numerator is just going to be 1 less than your denominator. And that's going to give you your numerator. And of course, on all of these, pi is going to be present. So I'll go ahead and fill those in for you. Okay, so I went ahead and gave you those radian values of at least these 2 quadrants so far. Actually, these 3 quadrants. So as you can see, like I said, in quadrant 2, you're going to find your numerator by it being 1 less than your denominator. So of course 1 less than 3 is 2, so you get 2 pi over 3. 1 less than 4 is 3, so 3 pi over 4. And 1 less than 6 is 5 pi over 6. So then it's kind of going to be the opposite thing for quadrant 3. As you can see, it's actually 1. Your numerator will have 1 more. As you can see right here, it'll be 1 more than your denominator, of course, times pi, like we did up in the second quadrant. So we can start down here. We have our denominator is 3, so 1 more is 4 pi over 3. We have a denominator of 4, so 1 more is 5 pi over 4. And we have a denominator of 6, 1 more is 7, so 7 pi over 6. All right, and here's where it can get a little bit tricky, and that's your 4th quadrant. So in your 4th quadrant, what you want to do is the way you're going to find it, you're going to keep, of course, your same denominators you've been using, emanating out from the bottom, that being the 3 pi over 2, aka 270 degrees. We'll do the degrees in a minute. And you really just want to follow the line. What you want to do is follow the respective angle line in quadrant 2 for the 4th quadrant. So, for example, if we wanted to find what our numerator would be with the denominator 3, we go up here and we follow that. So we see denominator 3 right there, that 2 pi over 3. So what we're going to do, we're going to add the numerator and the denominator. Of course, keeping pi as is, so don't worry about pi. Just add the numerator and the denominator in quadrant 2's respective angle for quadrant 4. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for you, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, so I went ahead and did those for you. So like I said right here, I went ahead and wrote it down. Your numerator will be the sum of quadrant 2's respective angle. So and that quadrant 2 respective angles, numerator and denominator. So in this case, I have the 5 pi over 3. I get that 5 because right here, my 2 plus 3 equals 5, and that's its respective angle in quadrant 2. So you just follow that line all the way down to that same angle in quadrant 4, and you just add them up. Same thing with the 3 pi over 4. 3 plus 4 is 7. So 7 pi over 4. And then same thing here, we have 5 pi over 6. And then 5 plus 6 equals 11. So you have 11 pi over 6. And then, of course, with your angles, as long as you know those 4 cardinal points, or even just those first 2, which I like to call my anchors, of course, you can calculate those out. And the degrees should be easy to find. It's the radians that can be a little tricky. But that is your complete unit circle. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you learned something.